All right, guys, join me as I break down the complex concept of prison gerrymandering.
Ready.
All right, guys, prison gerrymandering is a practice that's been gaining a lot of attention in recent years, and it's for a very good reason. It has significant implications of political representation and electoral fairness. Now, when we think about gerrymandering, we usually think about manipulations in the electoral district boundaries, but prison gerrymandering takes it to a whole new level. Now, one of the main issues with prison gerrymandering is that it leads to disenfranchisement. When prisoners are counted as residents of the area where they are incarcerated rather than their home communities, it gives them a disproportionate voting powers to the district where the prisons are located. For a great example, in the area I live in, the prisons we have several prisons in this area. Now, and they're not just small institutions. Most of them holds up to 1,400 inmates. So those are counted as residents of the community. Now, one of the counties around me is one of the smallest counties in the state. Now, when you take the smallest county in the state and add a large institution to it, you add another 1,400 to the population. But what if I said there's more than one prison in this little tiny county? Now you're up to nearly 4,000 residents. Okay, you see where I'm going with this? Now, it can give a disproportionate voting power to the district where these prisons are located, like I stated. Now, this means that the elected officials are representing the interests of the incarcerated individuals who can't even vote, rather than their actual constituents. It's a clear distortion of democratic representation. Now, another issue is that the prison gerrymandering can lead to skewed representations in state legislations. For example, if a state has a large prison population, as I stated below, in districts where those prisons are located may have more representations in the state legislature. Even the actual population isn't that large, like the small county that I live by that has several prisons. Now, this could lead to laws and policies being shaped by their interests of a select few, rather than the needs of the broader community. Now, skewed representation also has a significant racial implication, since the prison population is disproportionate, made up of people of color. That means that white communities may have more representations and influences over the law and policies, even if they're not the ones mostly affected by those laws. Now, prison gerrymandering also raises the questions about the very concept of representations in the democracy. If prisoners are counted as residents of the area where they are incarcerated, does that mean they're being adequately represented by the official elected for that district? Probably not, since they can't even vote for the officials. Now, it's a clear example of how our political system can be manipulated to serve the interests of a few rather than the many. So, how does prison gerrymandering actually works? It's pretty straightforward. During the census, prisoners are counted as residents of the area where they're incarcerated, rather than their home communities, the houses that they actually lived in before they was incarcerated. Now, this means that the communities where the prisons are located gets more funding, more representations, and more political influences. It's a system that's been in place for decades. Now, it has significant consequences for a democracy. Now, the government has been counting prisoners in this way since the 19th century, but it wasn't until the 1990s that it became a major issue. That's when the prison population started to skyrocket, and the number of prisoners being counted in rural areas started to have a significant impact on political representation. Now, today, there are over 2 million prisoners in the U.S., and the majority of them are being counted in rural areas, because that's where they build most of the prisons. rather than their home communities. Now, one of the ways that prison gerrymandering works is through something called prison-based gerrymandering. This is when the electoral district boundaries are manipulated to include high concentrations of prisoners, usually in rural areas. This gives them areas that's political influences and power, even if they're not actually home to very many people. It's a powerful tool that politicians who want to maintain their grip on power, but it's dangerous to democracy. One key case that highlights this issue is with prison gerrymandering is the lawsuit brought by the NAACP against the state of New York. The NAACP argues that prison gerrymandering was violating the voting rights of people of color, and federal court ultimately agreed that the ruling was a major victory for voting rights advocates. Now, it set a key precedent for future challenges to prison gerrymandering. Now, the NAACP lawsuit was part of the broader effort to reform prison gerrymandering and to ensure that voting rights are protected. Similar efforts are underway in states across the country as advocates push for changes to the way prisoners are counted during the census. Prison gerrymandering has a significant implication for our democracy. Now, it is an issue that we need to take seriously by counting prisoners in their home communities rather than the areas they're incarcerated. Now, we can ensure that representation is fair and democratic. It's not a radical idea. It's just a basic fairness. Now, if you want to learn more about prison life, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell me how you feel about prison gerrymandering. If you have another concern, also put that in the comments and we'll get back to you. We appreciate you watching Beyond the Badge, Inside the Bars.